We are recording. All right, I appreciate the patience, everyone. And we will get started with our portrait juror and artist talk. Welcome, everyone. Just like I said, there'll be a little housekeeping here. We just want to thank all of our financial support coming from grants from the City of Atlanta's Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, and the Georgia Council for Arts, who through the appropriation from the Georgia General Council, and obviously they partner with the National Endowment for the Arts. They all help us, and it's wonderful. And then also some of our donors throughout the year. These are people who also help us to maintain our wonderful programs that we will enjoy. And of course, just like PBS, we can do without photographers like you. And I appreciate everyone being here, and I think we'll get started with the main attraction. Oh, I lied. Of course, I think we're all aware this is something we've done a couple months now, and we'd like to continue to bring attention to it, that the arts are under threat and our voice matters. Reaching out to your local representatives to help for funding is a great help, and it's very important. And we would appreciate your help in that matter as well. Current call for entry. See, I lied. Current call for entry that's open right now is Airport 2025. It's open to November 17th. That's one of our wonderful shows that's actually in the airport and not in the gallery. So folks walking through the airport will see your work, and it's really cool and really awesome, actually. I love to go every year and check it out. Current exhibitions. Storytelling 2025 is in the main gallery here, and of course, Portrait is in the Maloof, and we just had our opening yesterday. If anybody couldn't attend, it was wonderful. And our upcoming events will be the Juror Talk for Storytelling on Thursday. And we also, on Saturday, tomorrow, we have our Photo Book Saturday, which is every fourth Saturday of the month. You can come hang out with me. I'll be here for sure. And there'll be several people showing books. We just sort of talk about a book and share it with everybody. It's a good time. It can be your book or someone else's book, whatever your heart desires. Okay. And now I would like to introduce Bree Lamb. She is our juror. Oop, hit too many buttons. She's the co-managing editor of Fraction Magazine and associate professor of photography at New Mexico State. I have a thing on my screen where I cannot see everything that is on her bio, so I'm embarrassed right now because, of course, like I said, I've lost my mouse. And give me one moment. There we go. Hold on. Thank you all for bearing with me. Bree Lamb is an artist, educator, and editor based in New Mexico. She is associate professor of photography at New Mexico State University. And for the last 9 years, Lamb has been the co-managing editor of Fraction Magazine, an online venue dedicated to contemporary photography that brings together diverse bodies of work by established and emerging artists from around the globe. She has reviewed portfolios at national and international events, including Review Santa Fe, Medium Festival of Photography, Mount Rocco Photography Festival, New England Portfolio Reviews, Month of Photography Denver, Photo Lucida, and the Society of Photographic Education National Conference. And I think she did an amazing job. I think almost everybody was here yesterday or has been to the gallery, has seen how great it looks in the Maloof. And if you haven't, I hope you can attend or come by. But I'd like to just hand it over to her. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see her wonderful face. And
you can keep sharing your screen. That's fine. I can be very small. I'm fine with that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything. And I know that you're sort of, filling in and we're thinking of David and sending good thoughts to David and everyone at the Atlanta Photography Group. And so, yeah, thank you for having me. This is like such a pleasure. We were sort of like just chatting prior to everyone joining the Zoom room. And I was saying like, it's very rare that to like actually get to chat with people who are making the images. And so like that's probably the most exciting part for me, like people who are submitting work and making work. And I also just want to share that like I am very honored to be able to jury this opportunity and to review portfolios and things of that nature. But I also make work. And so I'm on the other side of it. And so I'm applying for shows all the time. I'm getting into a small percentage of things that I apply to. And so I just wanted to share that, like, I appreciate the effort that goes into thinking about what exhibitions that you want to apply to, the just like the energy and the labor and all of those things, not only in making the work but in sharing the work too. So I just want to thank everyone who applied for this opportunity. I know this is like super cliche, but this was a really difficult one to jury. It honestly was. I went through it like, again, I said prior to recording, but I have my laptop over here where I have sort of like the full submission and the final selections, and it was difficult because the quality of submissions was so high. And so anyway, I think it's important, like, just to acknowledge that, like, even if maybe you didn't get into this one, or you didn't get into a different one you applied to, or the next thing you apply to you don't get into, that it's like a lot of it is subjective and a lot of it is sort of parameters given for that thing. So we could talk more about that another time, but but anyway, yeah, so I was really excited by the images that I saw for this submission. I think something about portraiture that I'm always really drawn to. Um, and there was like this Lucy Lepard article that she wrote a very long time ago, but it was really talking about this like triangulated relationship between the photographer and the subject and the viewer. That like when you're making a portrait as a photographer, um, or as a painter, or whatever, but that there's this sort of like assumption of the viewer in that space. And maybe you're making a portrait and you're not sharing it, and or maybe it's an intimate portrait, or you're making it for a different purpose. But like, even if the subject then becomes the viewer at a later date, like, you know what I mean, like even if you're just sharing it with the person whose image you're making. And so I'm always sort of, that's always, I guess, in the back of my head when I'm thinking about portraiture. Um, and and how it sort of differentiates itself from like other particular sort of like niches in photography as well. And so anyway, it was really cool. I think also this is like I probably got to come clean with you guys. Like I haven't made a portrait in a while. I've been like sort of in, and I'd love to hear this again when you guys are sort of discussing your work too. I'm someone who, like, I'm very formulaic. Like when I'm making work, I come up with a formula and then I just like do that thing until exhaustion. And so I love, like, when I'm looking at a lot of these images and I was sort of thinking about, the space between the photographer and the subject. I was thinking about like control, whether that's control of light or control of lens and focal length, control of environment, and also this like thinking about chance and opportunity as well. I'm someone who I don't allow for a ton at this moment, a ton of chance in my current practice. And I think that's something like that reviewing these images really was like a really interesting moment for me, because I was sort of reflecting on my practice when I'm reviewing the images that you all submitted and thinking about the sort of relationship between like staging and control versus sort of allowing for chance and opportunity. So if you're interested, if that was part of your practice, I'd love to hear that. Or how you're thinking about light and how you're thinking about sort of spatial arrangement and all those different things. I was also just excited about, like, when you have, portrait is such a tried and true call for photography. And I think, Brian and I were talking about a little bit that like it's it's so appealing in a lot of ways. Because it's so open. And I think, it sort of stood the test of time. And with that said, I was just like really excited about the variety of work. Like we think of portrait and then like all of these different ways of making, these different ways of seeing, and collaborating with subjects, because you are sort of in this sort of codependent relationship with your subject in portraits. And then also this sort of tension between like people who are really sort of pushing abstraction or like introducing maybe like less traditional mechanisms in portrait. So I mean, I could go on for a very long time, but I would probably bore you guys to death. But it was a very exciting the complete submission was really exciting. I was very honored to get to jury the show, and I appreciate everybody's time and labor sharing their work. And I'm really excited to hear more about your process and sort of how you are thinking about your images. So I won't speak much longer because I know we have, a bunch of people, but if we end up with time at the end, I'd love to sort of open it up for maybe like a larger dialogue about, just your approach to making and things like that. So
Great, that was wonderful. And yes, we usually do open it up for Q&A at the
great.
end. And I really love that idea of the assumption of the viewer. That's a really great thing to think about. So it'll be really interesting. Let me go back and share so we can see the work.
Cool. And maybe before I forget, the last thing I'd like to add, because I believe it or not, I do have some notes, but it was just like there was like a real authenticity to this work, is all I want to say, like across the board. I just felt that like really across the board, tangible authenticity. So
That's great. We appreciate that. And let me share. All right. So here we go. Portrait 2025. These are our featured artists. And our first one, and even for folks that aren't here, I'll just say the name of the work and the artist. And if they don't speak up, then forever hold their peace. We have Aaron Drummer, excuse me, Rivers from the series Portraits in Purple. And if I miss something, somebody, it doesn't waste their hand and time, we'll get back to them or we'll figure it out. No worries. Alan Wilco, Cocoon. Alexander Dufour, Daphne Rose. Amanda Summerlin, I apologize. Robert. And for the person that's not here, if Bree, you want to step in and say a sentence or two about something that might have moved you, that's totally fine, but you don't have to. There's a few of us online today, so. Andrea London, Jamal.
just in response to that, maybe we could go back. We'll let everyone sort of speak first, and if there's time.
Okay, yeah, that's a
good?
much better
Okay.
idea. Yes, thank you. Perfect. Can you guys hear my chair squeaking when I move? Good, thank God. Because I move a lot. All right. Brian Galgano, 0304 2008, and that's actually me. And yeah, I'll just say that this is an image from a body of work that I'm doing on memory. And sort of, are we an honest witness to our past? Examining how our memories change over the course of time, our recollections of our memories change over the course of time to sort of fit the narrative of who we are or who we become, as opposed to who we were when we felt them. And I use lens filters that I created on my own and different kinds of photography techniques to sort of create the abstraction that I feel when I think back on the memories that I have. So each of the pictures in the body of work kind of represent a specific memory for me. But yeah, that's it on that guy.
Could I ask you
Yeah.
so could you speak more to the filters that you're creating?
So yeah, I can. Actually, a lot of my photography on this subject revolves around my years in addiction and in recovery. And so I make some lens filters that I cut up from old liquor bottles. So the
Mm,
bottoms of the liquor bottles, and I fashion them in a way that creates different ways the light reflects back into the camera.
wow.
This one doesn't have quite that much of it, but there are about 20 pieces that I have that, and there's like it's involved in most of them.
Wow. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Is this film or digital?
Digital.
It does have that like film sort of saturation or viscosity or something to it.
It's a double exposure in
It
camera,
reminds
so
me of a light leak, sort of, but like
Mm.
purposefully done.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, thank you. Chadisha Willis, Lingues, if I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I apologize. Christopher Ryan, smoking section. Christopher, I think, is here, so I'll give him an extra second to unmute. Did I lose Christopher? Okay, well, we can come back.
I can see you, Christopher, and I think you're trying to speak, but maybe your audio is not working. Oh no, your audio is not working. I want to hear
Oh.
what you have to say.
All right. Well, Christopher, if you figure, let's work on figuring it out, and we'll definitely come back to you. All right. That'll be no problem. Just chime in at an opportune moment to say, I fixed it, and then we'll swing back around at the end. Colin Potts, Alley. Colin Ward, Colors of the Thurl. Apologize again for my pronunciation.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, great, wonderful. Hey, Colin, a couple people were really taken by this yesterday.
Oh, that's good. This gentleman in Thurl, his name is Thurl Hupp, is a 28-year Disney employee in Florida, and he's normally modeling with all kinds of crazy outfits. But in this case, he came to my studio, and I was trying to catch his real personality. And since I've seen him so many times in other outfits, I decided to put some gels on my flashes and give him a little personality. That's about it.
Wonderful.
So is he someone that you photographed before? Like in costume or in character?
Yes, I've known him quite a while. We're friends, and I've shot him in my studio a couple of times, and then at some events as well. So the answer is yes.
Could I ask you a question? Because this is something I think about also with portraiture and like, because I teach too, we talk about this with students, is like, we talk about this broader idea of like someone being, when you're making a portrait, right, is like someone being a model versus you taking a portrait of that person. And so I'm curious because here's someone who's you've worked with or known for several years and worked and taken photos of in other capacities. I'm understanding. Did you feel like there was a different experience sort of like in the studio when you were making this image? Was there still like a performance element? Was there like more of a vulnerability? I'm just like more curious sort of about like when we have someone stands in for an idea that we have or whatever is playing a role versus, making a portrait of that person. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Um, yes, when he is dressed up in his various costumes, he seems more remote
Mm.
and as if he's acting. In
Mhm.
this case, in my studio, it was just he and I, and it was just two people, getting to know each other a little more and trying to record some of that.
Yeah, that's cool. With this one, I mean, there were a couple of things that I was really responding to. I thought like compositionally, it was just really strong. Like the way you're thinking of the frame, you're using the frame, you're sort of capturing this movement or this like little bit of tension in the gesture. I also found the sort of gradient that you get through the gels rather than just being like, and I actually love super poppy gels too, but like rather than just being, a super poppy gel, it was like this really sort of beautiful gradient that sort of moved from, his head through his torso. But just like aesthetically, I found to be really interesting. Um, yeah, I think it's just a beautiful photo. And then also like the angle with which that you're using the lights, you have this nice sculptural element on the shirt and the jaw, and so it's a lovely photo.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Elizabeth Swain, Dreaming Past the Glass. Ian McFarland, All Business.
Hey, Brian, I switched in with my phone. I'm sure the mic will work.
Yeah, I'll swing back around when we go all the way through. How's that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is brand new work. I probably shot this about 2 months ago. It's sort of a beginning of a new series derived from a series I worked on about 3 years ago, called My Mother's Daughter. I shot about 18 to 20 pairings of mothers and daughters together. And this young woman, she's the daughter of one of the mother daughters, but she was not in the mother daughter picture that day. She was not available. She had to be somewhere that weekend with her father. And so one of my sort of keystone images from that series was her mother and her little sister. Well, I felt bad, so I went back and I said, okay, well, I need to photograph you now. And so this is G. Her name is actually G, and she's a musician. She's 18. She's just on her last year of high school. She's a character and a really, really wonderful young woman. And this new series is kind of going back to some of the younger and aged girls that were in the mother-daughter series. There was daughters as young as 6 all the way up to 18. And 3 years has gone by, and I'm kind of revisiting some of them and doing portraits, seeing the transition that these young women are going through. And some are just leaving school or leaving high school into college. Some are, going from 11 to 13. And there's these really beautiful transformations that are happening. And I photographed a handful of these families multiple times throughout their life. So I know them pretty well. So yeah, it's talking earlier, Bree, when you said about process, I don't use any equipment. I don't have any reflectors, anything. I try to keep everything bare bones. It's just me and the model and my camera and a monopod. We typically spend about 1.5 to 2 hours together. Sometimes we shoot 2 outfits. We go to multiple locations. Sometimes G and I drove around for about an hour that day looking for spots. I'm very much looking for my signature light, a little pocket that I can see that I think is mine, and that's going to translate to my style. And so we found that this was one of the very last shots of the entire day. And I actually put her in the same spot that I put her mother and her sister in 3 years ago. And the light was it's just a really magical little spot. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful portrait. And again, it probably sounds corny or whatever, but like just going back to this idea of like, I don't know, I kept thinking authenticity or some sort of, communication or collaboration between like subject, sounds weird saying subject sometimes, but like, and photographer. And there was just like I don't know, it's such a beautiful portrait aesthetically, compositionally, tonally. You've got like just such a rich tonal range. You're thinking about the like, foreground, midground, background, all of that stuff. Like technically it's excellent.
Thank you.
And then I think, and looking at your other submissions, because they're, remember looking at some of those too. But there was something about this one that was just like in her eye contact, like in her gaze, there was just something interesting. So it's cool to learn that like this was the end of a long hour and a half, 2 hour session.
Yeah.
That maybe there was like this comfort that you all had built, that there was, or, you know, I don't know, like sometimes those magical moments happen and you just have to be ready for them. And clearly you were.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier about how your process is, you know, a little bit more worked out in your work right now, like I have, you can see, I think from my work, if you look at a body of work, I have a formula. I mean, I have my light, I have my f-stop, I have my square, which, you know, limits you to a certain number of sort of compositions if you're shooting a single subject like that. So I'm very conscious of composition massively, like every little twig behind her head, I'm shifting
Yeah.
and moving. I'm moving millimeters left and right, and asking her to move her thumbs 1 inch. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of. Once we get comfortable, I do a lot of orchestrating, but in a way, I think that they are very comfortable. I also kind of allow them to go in their natural body positions, and then I kind of shift and mold them into sort of the character, even this I like to think of it now as a false narrative that I'm sort of creating for the viewer. Like they don't know why I'm taking this picture or who this person is or what's going on and where this is. And I like the idea that the viewer can look at the image and go, you know, what is going on there? And not in a crazy way, but like it doesn't scream her front yard in Georgia, you know?
Sure. I always think of that as just like thinking of like access points. Like I think it's open enough that you're like allowing different people with sort of different interpretations and different sort of access to this image, if that makes sense. Is like it's not like it's not this plus this plus you know, not that there's I think there's a lot of great work that's doing that too. It's a little more specific, but I think there is like an ambiguity in this that allows for just different access, you know.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll say is just something about the title. Title, as probably is a lot of titling an image is just really impossible. It's like trying to write an artist statement. It's ridiculously hard. But with this image, she had the white dress on. She had little jean shorts and a little top on earlier throughout the day. And I said, well, I need something dark. I need something that's going to pop off with your hair and something that's going to frame differently. I'm always telling my subjects, do not wear bright white. Please stop wearing bright white. I can't deal with it. And so her mother grabbed this little velvet jacket and put it on her. And she came downstairs and I said, oh, that's wonderful. And then her mom, who is a very close friend of mine and an artist herself, she says, yeah, she's all business.
There you go.
Like she's a little hipster going to a little interview or something. I said,
Sure.
yeah, you're all business. So that's the title. All business.
Awesome.
Thank you.
A great shot. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Jason Earl Klein, Contemplation. Okay. Kaylin Gilstrat, Miss Anne. Ken Bloom, two young women strolling in Camacho. Lawrence Russ, the chess master of McLeavy Green. I always love a good chessboard picture. Leanne Trevette S., Disruptions Self-Portrait. Maziar Darkashani, Black Cowboy. I think the tag says Max. It goes by Max. Is Max there? No. Michelle Durrill, Cleansed.
Oh, this is so exciting. This is my first time ever doing something like this. Although, I mean, I guess I went to art school, so this was pretty much how every art class was, like putting your work up. So this portrait is actually a series of a very large series that I hopefully will be submitting to the APG solo show, but it is a show that I self-curated and did earlier in March of this year. I am that person that's like 0 to 100. I'd never submitted to a show before. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna create my own show. Like, why would I submit to anyone else? So before I even allowed myself to even submit anywhere, I just decided I'm going to create my own show. My friend and I did this series together of women in nature. And she actually painted for my images. So my images were all black and white, and she painted the same images in very interesting colors and a lot of very loose brush strokes and just vastly different in the way that we kind of interpreted the same image. And it was super cool. Ended up snowballing into this really large event. I ended up renting a very big art gallery in Columbus, and we had about 17 other women artists that joined us for the show, and then also 50 women-owned businesses. And entrepreneurship is something that's really important to me as someone who has come from poverty and like literally built my dream business where I'm making my own money now, like doing my dream. And so really this series was a testament to like the tenacity and resilience of a woman, and building this whole show was really like about celebrating the strengths of a woman. And it was called wild.flow.her, like wildflower. And this just deep essence of like growing, even if you don't have the right things to grow. Like if you're not in the best place, if you don't have the resources, but you can choose to grow anyway. And a lot of native plants, particularly in North America, have extremely deep root systems, are really drought resistant, all the things that would just suggest that a woman could just grow from anywhere. And so the series is really about women in connection with nature, but it's really a larger conversation about the resilience of a woman and not asking for permission to thrive, just doing it, kind of like me just saying, I'm just going to create this show. And so, yeah, I think this was actually a triptych. I don't know, I just have never submitted before, so I didn't realize I could submit a triptych, but there's 2 other pieces that are a part of this. One that is she's laying on her side, and the water, like the light is kind of hitting a side profile, and then one that is literally just the water on her collarbones. And this particular like triptych is really just about being cleansed in the water of like shame. And so the shame that women carry, particularly around literally everything, but late stage capitalism and the expectation of what a woman's nude body is supposed to look like. And something about her laying back in the water, just like there's a second of like intense, like, and then release. And so it's this like release of shame, and then Mother Earth will cleanse us of the things. Oh, it's, yeah, hopefully that's not me just rambling a lot, but it's been a really interesting time for me to be able to finally create for myself again. And the art that's coming out is very feminist driven, which I was shocked by.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, I have 2 small children and I forgot to turn my phone off. That's why I was like, oh, no, my phone's ringing. No, I love this image, and I was just looking over here because there was another one with the same model, I'm pretty sure. And I know you didn't submit it like a triptych, but or maybe it wasn't the same model. I'm not sure, but it was a similar environment, but she sort of has her knees in the water and is like, posing differently. And I actually had a hard time sort of deciding between the two, just because I was I don't know what I was responding to. I mean, obviously, of course, I'm responding first aesthetically to all of these images. It's like you guys know what you're doing, right? There's great attention to contrast and light and composition and tonality and all of these different things. So, but I think with this one, and then seeing your broader submission, without the knowledge of like your bigger series or whatever, but there was like definitely this like a real sense of like empowerment and vulnerability, and like women being confident in their bodies, and but still being like, I don't, it was just like, super complex. And I felt like this image, if I were to just select one from 30 people, right, which was my task, it was like, this was the one that I just felt was like very succinctly and like really effectively opened up a dialogue. Like it was, there was everything you're saying and then more, and you know, like it was just, there was so much sort of infused in this photo, in like your positioning, in like where you are as the image maker sort of making the photo, her sort of gesture, and then like also just even like there's like a tension between like, is she relaxed or is she, you know what I mean? Like there's just so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah,
just
I get
want
that.
to be
I think
like,
it's really interesting to hear about other people's process too, because my process is very much like gentle guidance. And so I'm hovering over her on this dock and she's
yeah,
under me. We're actually at a state park, which probably is not the best place to shoot this, but you know, I'm a ride the line of where is appropriate. But she had this little tube top on, so I had her just slide it down, and I literally just said, I want you to just connect with yourself. And like she literally just laid back and did this. And like that was it. Like she sat up and I said, perfect. Like that was amazing. And we got the shot. And I showed her the back of my camera and she just gasped and she was like, I can't believe that I look like that. And so that's most of my process is really just gently guiding people into kind of a space, and I'm a chaos shooter. And so I have to go back through and look at myself and I'm like, okay, I really captured that well here, but I mostly see
Sure.
light. So if I see light, I know that I got somewhat of a composition. So I'm constantly shooting
Yeah.
and I can go back in and like really look. Um, because I really want to catch that like micro expression. And sometimes that's hard to catch an expression and good composition and all the things that feels, like you said, authentic and genuine.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think it's a beautiful photo, and it's sort of, I think, embodies you know, your intentions. And also I think, you know, we talk about this idea of like, you know, subject, but also like subject versus object too.
Mm.
You know, that like that I don't feel like this woman is an object. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean, and that I feel like she feels empowered, or there's it's very complex, you know. And I think that like, you know, you to get those photos, you have to do all the things that we all do, which is like make a million bad photos. Like if you're
Right.
not afraid to make bad photos or not get the light right or miss the focus or use the wrong lens, or like you're never going to make those really, you're never going to have those really special moments unless you're like actually flexing the muscles and sort of working through those other things, and then like setting yourself up. And not, you know, how many times have all of us, any of us here today, like been there where it's like, yeah, like, you know, you like make the bad photos in order to make the good photos, and like you have to set yourself up for success through failure, which is like not always comfortable. It's not always like a comfortable place to be, but that's really the only way to do it.
Yeah, I think I'd say
So,
that I really focus in on like as soon as I see light come from somewhere, I would say very similar to a lot of us is just like as soon as I see the light, I'm like, okay, I know what the image is going to be in my head, and it's like I don't even need to think about it. I just as soon as I can get that person like in an emotional state and like create the environment for that, then all of my work is really geared towards emotion first, then
Mhm.
lighting, and then composition. But
yeah,
I appreciate your kind words. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Oh, and working through it, right? It's like you're like, not quite, not quite, not quite. There it is, boom, and then it's gone, you know. So anyway, yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Money Nation, excuse me, Pink Resonance number 19.
Hi.
Hey.
So this image was part of a larger body of work, which is the beginning of like a pink series. So this is like one set of from one set of the images. I have a tendency to shoot color. I love color. And but the meaning or the purpose of this particular series was a way of starting a healing process. So wrote down a few little notes, but it was basically it has meaning associated with unintentional childhood trauma surrounding the voice of a young girl expressing her likes and her dislikes and being ignored. It was a statement acknowledging the beginning or the continuation of healing that was unintentional, and also a statement of kindness towards the young girl who never got a chance to really, like say, this is what I like, listen to me. And and then also because it was between two colors, it was between pink and blue, and it was just a dress, just hey, let's get you this dress because you don't have this dress to, go to church. So, going through and picking the color that I like, and it was this light pink dress, and I'm just like, I love this dress, I want this dress, da, 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 da. And I was told basically no, and the blue will look better on you. And I was from that moment or that day, I don't think I realized it, but I began hating the color blue. Like any form of blue, it didn't matter what it was. It could be navy, it could be light blue, sky blue, whatever kind of blue. It was just, I hate blue because pink was taken away from me, just that but not just the color pink, because it seems so trivial as an adult, like, oh my gosh, like, you get over it, it's a color. But it was so much more than just the color. It was what happened to me as a child behind it. Like, my voice was taken, and that amongst all the other stuff of living and not feeling like I had a voice, so feeling like I needed permission to live, to say things or do things. And this was my way of starting, or not necessarily starting, but working through the process of accepting my voice, accepting me. Hopefully that is so more explanatory than just looking at a beautiful picture, because a lot of people are like, this is a beautiful picture. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your comments. It's so much for me, it's so much more than just a beautiful picture. And the model I've shot with her probably about 4 or 5 times. And what I asked her, explained to her the story, and I just asked her to show me different emotions that ranged from, like sadness, timidity, triumph, power, acceptance, things like that. And I think she really embodied a lot of what I was asking her to. I didn't have to give her too much direction. We shot in the city center in Atlanta, and it doesn't look like it, but we're dead smack in the middle of Atlanta. And it was early morning, probably about 8, 9 in the morning. So the sun is, just casting its rays through the trees. And that's where you get the moodiness and the spots of light and the gold, because I didn't have a reflector. Or actually, I think I had a reflector, but I didn't want to use it. I needed to be able to capture her in those moments, just the spots of light and dark. And this is what happened. And also the outfit was an experimentation, because we started with the outer dress, and then I was like, well, let's add this flower here, and then let's add this here, add this here, and then let's layer this here, and let's keep you in these boots because we're out in the dirt. So we're gonna go around in the boots, and we're gonna put you in water, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. And I need you to run. She ended up running and falling. It was hilarious. I love it. But it was a good time, and it was a good release.
That's amazing. I mean, I love hearing that process too, because that's like what we were saying with Michelle's too, is like you're working through it, you're responding, you're like, and it looks like this model is, I mean, it sounds like you had a very collaborative relationship. Like you had a vision, and then the model was able to sort of like, help you visualize it. I mean, this one is just such a stunning image. Like I was pulling this other one up because you had another one that I was going back and forth between the two. And it's a little tighter composition, but it's using sort of similar light. When she's like looking up, and I was just going back and forth between the two, because I just was really like drawn to each of them. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I landed on this one. I think they're both equally like amazing images, but there was something about like, her pose and her eyes being closed, and also like just the color relationship and that like the light just coming through. I mean, it's so like well seen. It's so well crafted. And so it's like, you know, back to this idea of like you've got, you know, something that you're trying to, an experience that you've had that you're trying to translate through this new person, through these new images. And then like going to this particular location, this particular time of day, like it's like having all this control, but then like allowing yourself to be open to chance and opportunity and seeing like where is the light, and also changing your like subject distance and focal length and all those like technical things that, you know, us as photo nerds, like that's where the magic happens, you know, but people don't always see that behind the scenes. And so I don't know. I think like seeing the two different images, it was clear to me that you're like moving through this space really collaboratively with your model, really looking, really seeing and responding. And I think they're both just like so, I mean, I'll speak to this one that we're all looking at. But it's such a powerful image. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's like the space that you give her. I think that's what I ended up sort of responding to, and maybe more like hearing more now about like your intention behind it, or like what you were sort of, what experience you were drawing from, is like that space and that like light coming through and like hitting her. It's just, it's gorgeous. It's amazing. And yeah, it's a great story, and hopefully maybe a cathartic experience for you as a maker. And yeah, a great collaboration between you and this model. It's really beautiful.
Thank you so much. I didn't even know until we got there, that she, on her list of places for shooting, like for her to shoot, she wanted to shoot at a waterfall, and there
Oh,
was
cool.
a waterfall there. It wasn't like a big waterfall, but it was still a waterfall, and I was just like, oh my gosh! So
Yeah.
she was excited to be able to do that, and you know, just to be a part and to help me to realize the idea that I had, because it was literally like, this is what I want to do. Are you
Yeah.
free? Let's do this. I'm gonna bring all this stuff. You bring this stuff. What kind of shoes do you have? Okay, let's work on this. You do your own makeup. Let's figure out the hair. Well, what does your hair look like now? How are you
Right.
wearing it? Okay, so come come as
So much
you
behind the
are.
scenes stuff. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll figure it out. And it just happened to be a very beautiful morning. And crazy enough, there was another photo shoot going on at the time, but their photo shoot looked completely different from what we were doing. And I was just like, wow, there are more people here than I expected. Oh, okay. That was another reason why we went so early.
Right.
To beat the heat, because it was August. So, you know, it gets
Yeah.
hot in Georgia in August. So it was
Sure.
definitely an experience. I'm really grateful that I was able to work with the model. And well, her name's Shannon. She was at the opening last night, so I'm really grateful I had a chance to work with Shannon, and that she just photographs so well. I'm just like, Shannon, how do you photograph like this?
But there is a difference, I think, between, there's different types of models, right? And there's someone who can really like embody a narrative or embody an experience. And it seems like you guys, whatever your work, you know, it's like you, she was understanding what you were looking for, and you knew how to capture it. And it's, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for choosing it. I'm
Of
grateful. Thank you.
course.
Patricia Hernandez Ayala, Distorted. This was one a lot of people were drawn to yesterday too. Patricia's not here. Virginia Jones, Vivid Expression. Ronnie Phillips, Coach. Scott Loudon, Kenya number 17. Scott. Sean Mayfield, Liked Seal. Okay. Oh, Shoyan Zoe, Grace Orchid, #1. Steve Treves, Mr. Dean. Tony King, Misteso 2.
Hello.
Hey, Tony.
This is a self-portrait I took earlier this year on a self-timer. I had just gotten hired for the first time ever to shoot something, and they really wanted a lot of black and white, dramatic kind of look. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome because I'd never been paid to take any photos for anybody before. So what better thing to do than practice? And self-portraiture is something that I've been doing since I was 17. And usually at times when I was feeling down, they've always been kind of proof to myself that I exist in a way. So I figured go ahead and take some self-portraits. And this is the second of a series. I think I ended up having 6 that I was satisfied with. But I think, you know, it represents a period of my recent life. And I was very happy with how this one turned out. So thank you for including it. Kind of submitted on a whim. You know, but so thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. No, I love this one too. I mean, I think, like I said, there were just the submissions were so strong. It was so hard to pick. There were, I want to say, yeah, there was another one from your series too, where it was like blinds, and then they were
Yeah.
sort of coming up the bottom. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, who knows what. They both were really excellent. And
Thank you.
I don't know, maybe it was this sort of like contemplative, but also there's like an anonymity to this one too that I thought was really sort of interesting, where it was like, we see a little bit about this person, we know a little bit of information about this person, but like it's more about this sort of expression or this gesture. And I would go back to this idea of like, I mean, compositionally, it's so strong, and like the space that you've sort of left around the subject. I know it's you're the subject, but um, and then also like at the bottom is like using, it was hard for me to tell, not that I need everyone to reveal all of their secrets, but it's like, oh, is it a reflective table in front of the camera that the light's coming off of, or is it just like a gobo, or but whatever it was, that sort of mechanism of like this blur, this reflection, this sort of catalyst that like just keeps us within the space. I think like it was just so strong visually. And I like that I mean, at least in the like computer that I'm reviewing these on, I like sort of leaning into these really rich shadows, which it's a nice tonal range anyway. But like on the subject, it sort of lacks some detail, but it felt very like intentional. It didn't feel like, I don't know, not an error or something like that, but there was like intentional sort of like you're using the window light, you're sort of backlit, it's sort of a silhouette, or it's mostly in silhouette, but yet you've got this like real sort of like lovely texture in the sweater and in the like hair light. I don't know, it's just it, photographically really beautiful, tonally really beautiful, compositionally everything's working. And then it's like the gesture, the pose, um I don't know, I just thought it was a really really beautiful photograph.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the other ones, that you submitted were equally strong. But so we see you. If you said you need to be seen sometimes, we see you. And congratulations on the job. Hey, we're only,
Yeah.
that's great. Hopefully that's the first of many, It feels good, right? And I've
Yeah.
still still have that even right now. Today I'm like, oh god, they care what I think about these things. And but you clearly have a good um you know good sense of light and good aesthetic, and beyond that though, I think there's like some real narrative infused in this as well. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Garfinkel, Gold Lady Orange.
Hello, hi. Um, so what can I say about this? So I used to be a graphic designer, and about 10 years ago I had the opportunity to switch to photography. It's a very long story, but so I feel, I was trying to think of what to say about this. I've been working on a series of portraits for quite a while now. I really plan them out. I sort of think of what I want to do ahead of time. And I sort of feel like my people, they're sort of like still lifes, but my original whole thing with photography was just light on the face. I just really love Holbein and Rembrandt and, the whole Rembrandt triangle, just trying to get a photo, sort of like a Holbein portrait would be. And right now I'm just using like plain backdrops. I have like a lady in brown, I have a lady in red, I have a young girl in red. Well, she's really a child. And then this individual whom I've worked with before, I have shot a lot of art nude work, and that's one of her main things. So this isn't really what you would see her doing for the most part in her portfolio. And I did, like I said, I spent a lot of time planning. Um, I think I spend like almost 90% of my time planning, finding color the way I want the person to look or stand, or how bright or dark I want the image. Um, and they are kind of like theatrical characters. And in a lot of ways, some of these things are almost like a biography of my life. I mean, my sister was in theater her whole life. I kind of semi grew up in the retail clothing in business. So like when I look for clothes, I'm looking for something really, different and interesting, or, the period of time, it's kind of nondescript. You can't really tell what it is. But other than that, I don't really have anything more to say other than I just really like lighting faces quite a bit.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was looking at your other ones here too, like the red book, and I mean there's such an intentional use of color, use of tone, use of um I feel a real kinship, Wendy, because I'm someone who they're like this control of color. I'm just like so obsessed with color. I love black and white, and
Oh, I
I
know.
shoot black and white sometimes.
Right.
But I feel like I'm just like ineffective using it or something like that. But I love it. So same thing that I've said basically to everybody tonight, but there was I mean a real sort of, technical you know, like I'm trying to think of like what the right word would be.
It's
But
okay.
like I mean, well, it's like you're like all of your images are very like technically savvy. They're very your light is very
Thank.
well crafted. Like there's nothing, it's all very intentional. And they're so easy to look at, and they sit in this space that is would lend itself to be more commercial. And I don't say that in a
No,
negative
I
way.
know. It's
I
true.
actually, and I for what it's worth, I like to play with that space actually, and something I
Yeah.
like to talk about with my students, and something I'm always thinking about is like, we know these like different areas where photography lives, right? It's like Snapshot,
Yes.
being editorial and commercial
Right.
and documentary, and right, and like we know what a ring camera looks like, and a ring camera looks different than a GoPro, right? But like
Mhm.
all to say that like we understand intuitively, all of us, whether we're photographers or not, understand these different ways of making images. And so
Right.
sometimes I think it can be really to our advantage when we're thinking about the aesthetic space within which we're making images, and where do images normally operate. So like what are the connotations for those spaces? So anyway, that's just like, without getting too dorky about it, is like we
okay.
understand that like a selfie is different than, you know, an advertising image. So your images ostensibly, light wise, color wise, sort of operate in this like editorial commercial advertising space. And I
Right.
think what that does is like it's so, they're so luscious and they're so sort of visually rich that like we automatically understand them, or we automatically drawn to them. Um, and then you do this really interesting thing, which is like you sort of are subverting that photographic language, if that makes sense. Or you're like infusing some other story, some other narrative, something's a little weird and it's a little off in like the best way possible. Does that, it was maybe like
Yes,
a long
no, I know. I mean,
explaining that.
I've been told, you know, in the past that, you know, my work looks very editorial, as if it was funny.
No,
And
I think it's beautiful. I think it's
oh,
amazing.
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. But I'm just saying, like, I do come from well, I mean, originally in my early 20s, I did work in advertising in New York, you know,
Yeah.
and I worked for photographers, but I was so young. I mean, I knew he would have a Hasselblad and I'd be like, oh my God, a Hasselblad. You know, I don't even know how to use the
Yeah.
damn thing. I mean, I did study photography in school. And, you know, the people that taught me were like Henry Hornstein, you know, like really
Sure.
conventional black and white,
Yeah.
you know,
That's funny.
you know, and but then I, you know, for various reasons, went and did graphic design, and so, you know, of course, I come from that world, and I frankly feel like, you know what, I'm not going to apologize for it, because I actually went to a workshop where the person is the same age as me, but they are literally worldwide known individual who shoots only black and white. Everything's outside mostly with some people. And when he saw a few of these pictures, I kind of really didn't know what to say, because the understanding his, you know, expectation, I think, is that people would be maybe showing things in a way he understood them. And for me, it was a little confusing, but I kind of had to slough it off, you know, go, okay, whatever. You know, it's not like someone, you know, didn't say after a whole week of me drawing, you know, 10 logos, you know, do more, you know.
Yeah, right. No,
So,
and I hope I'm not like,
oh, absolutely
I hope
not.
I'm communicating that
You
well. Because
are, and
what
I
I'm trying to
really,
say is I
I
think you
really
are like, I think these are gorgeous. And I
thank you.
that like what it means to like to be able to create sophisticated was the word I was trying to think of earlier, like aesthetically sophisticated in this, in the sense of like, why would someone use it for an advertisement? Because people will be drawn to it and they can sell whatever product they want. So the aesthetic sophistication, I think, is totally there. And then, but you are doing something that's like, it's a little bit of like a wink or a nod, I think, to the viewer. It's a little bit of like, I can play in this space, but I'm not sort of operating this space in the way that you're used to. And I actually really love that. I think that's what I mean in in saying like you're maybe subverting is not the right language, but like that
Yeah.
you like understand this space very well, clearly, professionally. And you also understand like how to sort of do something that's like a little bit of like you're like interjecting in that space in a really cool way.
I mean, the first time, I have to bring this up because everything I've ever seen, I think I keep it all in my head. But the first time as a kid, my aunt had this big Scavulo book. It was a
Okay.
coffee table book. And I'm thumbing through it, and there are all these, you know, famous people in that one particular book. I mean, it's a particular era because it was the early 70s or mid 70s. And you just didn't see things like this, you know, on the daily. And it's not like today where we're just literally bombarded with images that make us excited 1 minute and like, you know, our emotions are all over the place, really. But I saw, you know, like a picture of Brooke Shields or something as a child, or there's like a lot of famous people. I don't even know their names, but they're actors and, you know, just cool people from like France or Paris or something, and, you know, actresses and things. And I mean, I was like transfixed, literally. And so I feel like I'm trying to get that, constantly do that in every picture I make.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
how I felt.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool. No, that's interesting. I love hearing like the inspiration,
Yeah.
everybody's images too. I mean, it's so cool. It's like thinking about, again, I think of this in my work, and I haven't been making enough work lately,
Yeah,
but just
right.
like what's the inspiration, and then like how you translate that into this visual space, and then what do those images end up communicating, or well, and it's like it's beautiful. That's why we do this, right? I mean, that's why it's so exciting
Yeah,
to look
no,
at these
it's
images and
true.
talk about them and share them, is because we could give, all of us could be given the same equation or formula, and we would come out with something different, which I think is what's like so exciting and beautiful. And so this was, yeah, it was like a real pleasure to look at this work. And yeah, thank you for sharing, Wendy. This image is beautiful.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, let me just go back to folks that we may have missed. Christopher Ryan.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry about that. And I switched to my phone. I didn't want to do that because I have a habit of like twisting around and it probably causes a swirl in the background. But anyway, so this image is a crossover basically between two series that I do. One is called Youth and Urban Decay, and it's about children and teenagers in abandoned places, planes, trains, automobiles, hospitals, amusement parks, things like that, all over the world. And another series that didn't get a lot of traction, but it was called Teens with Tattoos. So the idea of that one, the title's pretty obvious. It's underage people with tattoos. And so I'd taken this group of three boys to an abandoned Thai army train right outside of Bangkok, Thailand.
Huh.
And this was the first one that I did. So the kids all come from a place called Klong Toi slum. It's one of the most famous slums in Asia. And as far as lighting goes, if you ever have the chance to shoot in an abandoned Thai army train, it is amazing because they have a lot of slits in the railroad car that allowed the soldiers to kind of like shoot at people when they're driving through villages, and they're metal. So you can like open and close these slits all over this train car and just create this natural light. So this was in the brutal heat of the day. It was about noontime. So the sun was just super bright outside, but by, opening and closing these little rifle panel portholes, whatever you want to call them, it got this effect. And I hadn't really planned on the boys smoking. They're very poor kids, so they have this horrible brand of cigarettes, and every time they would light one, they would share it, to conserve them. And so we had taken a break, and on their breaks, they like to smoke. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that has to be worked into the scene. Like, this is like who these kids are, like they give each other the tattoos with poke and stick with bamboos, or bamboo spears. And, they share everything. And they were really thrilled to be part of this experience. And it's just really amazing for me. And this one is actually one of the few things that I've sold more than one limited edition of in my day. So I'm real happy about that too.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. I've just got stacks and stacks of unsold stuff behind me in case you need some motivation. Uh no, I mean, again, it's a beautiful portrait. I mean, having that sort of like dual side light is just I think Moni, someone said very cinematic, I saw in the chat, and I was like thinking the same thing. Like it's just yeah, it's like very beautiful, dramatic light. Again, sort of the pose, even seeing like the feet. I mean, there's something about just having that little highlight on the tops of both of the feet. I think that is like, um, it's beautiful. I mean, it's sculptural, and then there's an intensity in the gaze. Um, it's like I didn't know where we were, in particular, and so it's interesting to hear that other information about these like abandoned trains, which is just wild to think about But in this context, yeah, just, I mean, you really were utilizing that space in terms of light, in terms of composition. I mean, I'm also wondering, like I was, when I saw this one, I was trying to think, like, where are you and what's your lens? And you're probably at 85 or so. Like, you're not not super long lens, not super short lens, but also it's just like, this was one where I was really trying to like sort of position myself as the image maker. Not that it matters, but just for like, I don't know, I like doing that sometimes as like an exercise. And uh, yeah, I don't know, it just gave me like a different appreciation for the image. And then it's also just got this like, I love, I mean, the smoke as again, just like a texture or adding a tonal range. But like this beautiful sort of contrast between the smoke just like below his jaw and then like the sort of darkness in between, you know, right on his brow and on his cheekbones. It's lovely. It's beautiful. It's so striking. And yeah, I mean, it's a stunning image.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I was actually, this was shot in 2018. And I was trying to remember what lens I had myself before this talk. And I was in the process of trying to find it in my Lightroom catalog and I couldn't. But it was, I was in the width of the train, so I couldn't have been very far back from him. If that makes any sense, you know,
Yeah,
a
it
train
does.
car is so wide and I was in the narrowest part of it. So I was fairly close to him. And I'm glad that you noticed the feet because that's kind of a signature thing of mine is bare feet. And I've done a long running series about feet and had my feet pictures exhibited in multiple places and been interviewed on TV for that series. And in this case, this wasn't meant as a feet kind of photo shoot. You know, that was just sort of like a little added benefit of that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just for me, just tonally, they sort of like where you get this really lovely gradient sort of behind him. And then it like you get this like again the texture on the pants and with like the sculptural light coming in at an angle. And then it's just like that little hint of feet that just gives something to the shadow that's sort of happening at the bottom, near the bottom of the frame. But it's just yeah, it's it's a lovely portrait. And I think also just like not just the feet, but like thinking of, you know, his posture and like his sort of strength or power or comfort in his body too. Like his body language is really dynamic. And then sort of having like the hand up and it's just it's a really dynamic portrait. Um, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so
Sorry,
much. Yeah,
blowing my nose. I have a cold. I'm sorry. I'm all
you're all right. These
yeah.
kids are remarkably confident, you know, with their bodies and with their personality and everything. They're very trusting. You know, like I have methods of how I find these kids when I travel, and you know, I definitely don't think that a foreign person traveling in America would be successful with these methods of finding kids. And, you know, if they were to come to America, people would run from anybody that was interested in this sort of thing. Whereas these kids were just thrilled for the opportunity.
Mhm.
And my favorite shape or feature of any photo is triangles. And this kid got so many triangles going on at one time. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Thank
So
you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate it
Yeah.
and appreciate being, having that one picked.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
And
You're welcome.
is there anyone else that may have come in late, that didn't get a chance? Not sure. I don't think I saw anyone. All right. We do have a few minutes for some Q&A. If folks are interested. I'm gonna stop sharing. Unless wait, yep. So yeah, if anyone would like to jump in with some questions. I didn't see any in the chat. All right. Well, I think that was lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Bree. I think it was great. We unfortunately may have had fewer people on than usual, but it gave us more opportunity to talk about each image.
It was great.
For the folks that were here.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank everybody for being here and thank everybody who came to the opening as well. And just everybody for making, APG as great as it is. I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just throw Fraction magazine is it's a online contemporary.
Oh yeah, definitely speak about it because
I'll just throw my email in there.
okay.
I mean, I'll be completely honest. So Leo runs Silver Eye Center for Photography in Pittsburgh. So we're the co-managing editors. And I teach full time. And like I mentioned, I think I have 2 small children. And so Fraction is sort of like our fun pet project. And so I'm not checking email all the time. It's nothing personal if you're like, I emailed you a week ago, or like, why isn't she getting back? She's blowing me off. It's not that, I promise. It's just Fraction is sort of like our fun side project, but I would be very happy to continue any conversations with anyone. No pressure, of course, but if you'd like to submit like a full portfolio of work for a potential feature, there's a link to that on the website. And it's pretty simple how you do that. But I was like really impressed with the quality of work. I would have included more images if I could. It was a super challenging task, but I did enjoy it, and I would love to stay in touch with anyone, whether you were in this exhibition or not, even if you've applied to different ones or you just want to stay in touch. So thank you for the opportunity, Brian and David and everyone. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you everybody and have a wonderful weekend.
All right. You too. Oh, I'm not on
Bye.
Instagram. Sorry.
Okay.
Fractions on Instagram. I'm not personally, and I don't check Fractions very much, but we do post when we have new issues. We do post them on Instagram.
Okay.
But yeah, but yes, email. I'm a nerd. I'm like, email's the best way. So
Okay. Awesome.
awesome. All right. Thank you all.
Bye
Have a great
everyone.
one.
Good night.